All right, I'm uploading these on YouTube so you can kind of skip around and look at which questions you really need the most help on. I'm just going to work through all 12 of these, and then on the next page I'll work through 7 out of the 8. You know, you didn't need to do question number 7. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Let's see if we can get this centered. There we go. All right, so for these basic ones where our A equals 1, you know that means in front of this is equal to 1. What we're going to do is go ahead and start by doing our box method. We're going to be putting our first term in this first box, so b squared, and the last term in the last box, so 7. So we're trying to figure out what times what equals b squared. Well, that's going to be b and b. Okay, and what times what equals 7? Well, there's only one set of factors that's going to equal 7, and that's 1 and 7. All right, fill in our boxes here, and make sure that the combination of these two boxes does sum up to be positive 8, and it does. So therefore, our answer is b plus 1 times b plus 7. All right, number 2. We put n squared here and positive 10 here. Now we have to be careful because this time we want our sum to equal negative 11. So instead of doing a positive times a positive, what we're actually going to be doing is a negative times a negative. That's going to give us a sum that is also negative. So we can say that we have n and n, but we want both of our terms to be negative. Excuse me. So our factors of 10 are going to be 10 and 1 and 2 and 5. Well, 10 and 1 is going to give us that 11, but remember we want it to be a negative 10 and a negative 1 to give us a sum of negative 11n and a product of a positive 10. All right, so these do equal that negative 11n there. Final answer would be n minus 10, n minus 1. Number 3. We're going to put m squared here and negative 90 here. So that tells us that one of our terms here or here is going to be a negative and one is going to be a positive. All right, so we have m and m. All right, and our factors of 90. So we have a few factors of 90. But we wanted to end up with a sum of positive 1. So remember, we want them to be really 1 apart because we're looking at one positive and one negative. So our factors here, I'm going to list out our obvious one, which is 9 times 10. Now, if we want this to be a positive 1 and one of these two has to be negative, we want this one to be negative because negative 9 plus 10 would give us a positive 1. So we're going to use negative 9 and positive 10. And the sum of these is going to give us that positive m there. So our final answer is m minus 9, m plus 10. Okay. To get a negative 12 for our product, we're going to want to have one positive and one negative number. You can start by putting n and n here. Okay. Our factors are going to be 1 times 12, and again we want one of these to be negative. We have 2 times 6 or 3 times 4. Now if we do negative 1 and 12 or 1 times negative 12, our sums are going to end up being positive and negative 11. Okay, if we do negative 2 times 6 or 2 times negative 6, we're going to get that sum of 4. So this is going to be positive 4 or negative 4. And we're actually looking for this positive 4, so we can stop here. It tells us we're going to be using these two factors right there. Negative 2, positive 6. Make sure it works when you fill in your boxes here. And it does give us positive 4. Therefore, our answer is n minus 2. N plus 6. we're going to have n and n. And we want to get a product of 9, but a sum of -10. So if you have a positive number, you know you can either have a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. In order for us to get a negative sum, we definitely want both negative numbers. So our factors are -3 times -3, which gives us a sum of -6. Or we have -9 times -1, which gives us a sum of -10. So that's what we want. These are the factors we'll use. And we end up with our final answer, n minus 1, n minus 9. Okay, looks like everything's positive here, so it looks like we're working with nothing but positive numbers. And so I know that 8 squared is going to give me 64. That's the first factor that came to my mind. And 8 times 8 is going to give us that product 64, but it's also going to give us the sum of 16. So that one is what we're going to use. So B and B, +8 and +8. B plus 8 times B plus 8. Now you may see this written another way. You may see this written as B plus 8 squared. So either one of these answers would be acceptable. Okay, so we have a -24 here. That tells us one is positive and one is negative. And we want to get a sum of +2 here. So let's list out some factors. I'm going to have 1 times 24. And remember, one's positive, one's negative. So we could have -1, 24, or 1 and -24. And let's go ahead and talk about our sums. So this sum is going to give us 23. And the second one would give us -23. We have -2 times 12, or 2 times -12, which would give us sums of 10 and -10. We have -3 times 8, or 3 times -8, which would give us sums of 5 and -5. Okay, I'm running out of room here. It's all right. We have -4 times 6, or 4 times -6, which would give us sums of 2 and -2. And we want this +2, so we're going to be choosing these two factors, -4 and 6. And that does give us that +2 there. So our final answer is m minus 4 times m plus 6. All right, and we're looking for a +24, but a negative sum here. So it tells us that both of our factors have to be negative numbers. All right, so our factors are going to be -1 times -24, which is going to give us a sum of -25. We have -2 times -12 gives us a sum of -14. -3 times -8 gives us a sum of -11. -4 times -6 gives us a sum of -10. If you can't find two factors that are going to add together to give you your middle number, but multiply together to give you your last number, we're going to call it prime. We have k squared and +40, k and k. We want a positive number here, but a negative sum. So that tells us we're doing a negative times a negative. Here's our factors. We're going to have negative 1 times negative 40. Sum, negative 41. Negative 2 times negative 20. Sum, negative 22. We're going to have negative 4 times negative 10. Sum, negative 14. We have negative 5 times negative 8, which is going to give us a sum of negative 13. All right, and so we're looking for negative 13, so we're going to be using the two terms negative 5 and negative 8. Final answer, k minus 5 times k minus 8. Looks like everything's positive, so we're going to be working with nothing but positives here. Our factors of 18, 1 times 18, sum 19. 2 times 9, sum 11. That's what we're looking for. We're going to use these two factors, 2 and 9. And final answer, a plus 2 times a plus 9. All right, we're looking for a negative 56, and we have a negative here, which means one of our answers is negative, one is positive. So our factors of 56, 1 times 56, 7 times 8. We want the ones that are 1 apart, and remember, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So we could go here or here. All right, we're looking for sums, so this would give us 55 or negative 55, and these would give us 1 or negative 1 for our sums. And we want negative 1, so we're going to choose these two factors here. Final answer, we have n plus 7 times n minus 8. We have a positive here, but a negative sum tells us both of our numbers here need to be negative. So our factors are going to be negative 1 times negative 6, sum negative 7. Negative 2 times negative 3, sum negative 5. So we're going to be using this one and these two factors, so negative 2, negative 3. And we're going to get our final answer of n minus 2 times n minus